My name is Jessie Tierney and I teach yoga. It is my highest honor to share this practice with others. So when we were given the opportunity to conduct this biology service project, I immediately thought of ways I could offer the practice to my community in a way that relates to what we learned in biology. Serendipitously, a new center for healing opened in my hometown of Sedro-Woolley. So I volunteered to create their website and teach a free restorative yoga workshop. I designed a physiology study where I would ask the question, what is the impact of yoga on stress? And to answer it, I'd use self-reports of participants before and after the workshop and measurements of heart rate and blood oxygen levels before, during, and after. My hypothesis: if a person practices yoga, they will experience lower levels of pain, reduced levels of stress, a lower heart rate, and an increase in blood oxygen saturation. Restorative yoga is a gentle and passive practice designed to promote healing on deep emotional and physical levels. Taught with an emphasis on breathing, meditation, and with precise attention to body alignment in the carefully planned and sequenced postures, this practice is accessible to nearly anyone. I used a questionnaire for participants to rate their pain and stress levels on a 0 to 10 scale before and after the workshop. I also used a pulse oximeter to measure blood oxygen and heart rate. Here you can see some brief moments from the class where I'm demonstrating a pose and then getting people into the pose and then coaching them through some pranayama and meditation. And here are the results from the study. For heart rate, people started at hour 0, and then halfway through the class, about 1 hour into it, everyone's heart rates dropped. And then at the end of the class, which is marked by the 2-hour mark, everyone's heart rates raised, but not to the level from the start of class. Here, oxygen saturation did not support my hypothesis. Starting at the 0 hour at the start of class, 1 hour, everyone except for one participant dropped in level of oxygen, and then at the 2-hour mark, the levels raised back up again. On this graph, we have stress and pain as an average of all the participants on their 0 to 10 scales. And you can see that stress and pain, both in pink at the start of class, lowered to the blue levels by the end of class. So both of them experienced a reduction in stress and pain. Here is the levels of percent change from the start to the end of class. So oxygen saturation had an average of 0% change from start to end of class. The heart rate was a 19% decrease. Pain was a 32% decrease, and stress was a 63% decrease. My results showing that yoga is correlated to a reduction in pain are supported by studies measuring yoga's impact on issues from fibromyalgia to chronic low back pain. One of the participants in this study reported to me that she walked in with a migraine and it was nearly gone by the end of the workshop. Yoga is becoming widely known in the medical community as an antidote to stress, and the results of my study reflect this finding. For these reasons, yoga is being used increasingly in clinical settings for anxiety, panic attacks, and depression. Restorative yoga appears to be correlated with a reduced heart rate, which may be why we see the reduction in stress and pain. The parasympathetic nervous system is activated through deep, slow, controlled breathing, causing the stress hormone cortisol to lower and the relaxation response to activate. This can be an empowering realization for an individual who deals with stress and can learn tools for helping control their response. I hypothesized that a yoga class with an emphasis on deep breathing would increase blood oxygen saturation, especially given what we learned in class about slow oxidative and fast glycolytic muscle fibers. In this case, however, the intensity of exercise was quite low, So participants were obtaining energy in the form of ATP by way of oxidative phosphorylation, the slow, or in this case, very slow, oxidative process. However, deep breathing does not appear to impact oxygen saturation in the case of this study. There is a possible confound in my study. Perhaps participants were so relaxed that they stopped deep breathing altogether. Here's a brief slide with opportunities for future research, which I intend to investigate when I get into PT school. Yoga as a life strategy has been around for over 5,000 years. The practices of yoga have been perfected, replicated, and repeated uncountable times since then. In the most ancient texts, before our time of mathematics and measurements, there were accurate recordings of things like the speed of light by ancient yogis. One could think of yoga as the greatest body of empirical evidence in the world, due to so many trials over such a vast period of time. Western science is now investigating yogic principles, and many of these teachings are now being supported by scientific studies. I personally resonated with the idea of scientific method as life strategy because it encourages curiosity, awareness, and mindfulness, as does yoga. Through observation, a clearer and clearer picture of life emerges. For example, in science, as we learn that eutrophication destroys the life systems that sustain us, we can use these facts to inform our decisions about whether to fertilize or compost. What yoga offers beyond the purely objective realm of science is something I think can help us to navigate through the biggest crisis of our time, climate change. Science shows us that we must act now. Like Kathleen Dean Moore said in her Vanishing Ice talk, climate change is a moral dilemma. And I'm posing that yoga offers us a system combining the scientific approach with mindfulness and a framework for action. Yoga teaches us that our inner reality becomes manifest in our lives, and that our outer world is reflected within. This suggests that as we purify our outer worlds, we will enjoy things like reduced rates of cancer, hypertension, stress, even diabetes. And as we purify our thoughts, emotions, and actions, our outer world will become more beautiful, diverse, and life-sustaining. We live in a time of transition, and the gifts of yoga, coupled with those of science, provide us with the tools we need to shape the future of our species and the planet. Thank you, and namaste.